No. Okay, we ready?
Yep.
Do we have a motion to come out of executive session at this time?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we reconvene from executive session. Let the record show that no votes were taken, and a motion to seal the minutes.
That's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Open session, discussion by council, vote or other action regarding purchase of supporting materials, aerial maps, etc., for appeal of decision of zoning official for 1 Buxton Hollow, 300 Buxton Street, North Smithfield, Plat 1, Lot 35.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we authorize through the solicitor for the purchase of supporting materials for aerial maps, et cetera, for the appeal of decision of the zoning official at Buxton Hollow, 300 Buxton Street, North Smithfield, Plat 1, Lot 35.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Old business, discussion by council, vote or other action on an update of the Municipal Building Review Task Force. Mr. Nordstrom, you have anything new for us?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for attending the work session last week. It's a big report, a lot of information. I have several items to discuss. First of all, Tecton has completed their scope of work, so that final report is their final project. So I would urge at the earliest time that the town council accept the report so they can be paid the rest of the money that they're due on the contract. Once the report is accepted, I actually have a thumb drive of the final report that I can give the town administrator if it wants to go on the town's website. Yeah. So I'll hold on to it till then. Okay. As you know from the presentation, the current building is not in the best shape. While there's not enough money left in the current bond to address all the issues, some money can be spent doing remedial repairs, but I fear that once we go down that path, then you're going to be rehabbing the building and not building a new police station. So some thought has to be placed in that. In that, also keep in mind that based on that presentation last week, that building really, existing building, isn't really amenable to be a modern police station. And then the last thing I'd like to discuss is what the timeline would be if the decision is made to go out to bond. If the decision is made to go out to bond in next November's general election, and this is based on some people on the task force experience with the middle school project. Enabling legislation would need to be submitted to the General Assembly. That session begins in January. Back up a little from that. Certified language must be approved by the Secretary of State in August. And the Bond Council would have to come up with wording so that can be submitted to the General Assembly. Doesn't give us much time to make a decision. Again, if it's going to be done for that next November election. And I would think that if that's the decision that's made, we would also have to, I would think you'd want to amend the contract with Tecton to have them refine the preliminary design and come up with more solid costs. So I guess the ball is in your court. We look forward to your decision. We'll abide by whatever your ultimate decision is. So
The bond would be, there'd be a couple of questions on it, right? Whether you, which do you support? You support new? Do you support renovate? Yeah, wouldn't,
No, I disagree.
okay.
This board needs to make a determination of which direction we want to go in. We need to make that decision. Do we want to renovate? Do we want to just spend $1 million and fix what we can fix? Or do we want to build a new station? I think that decision has to be made at this board so that the legwork can be done to get to the point that the voters can vote on something.
So you want the voters to have an all or nothing opportunity, either vote for the bond or nothing? Vote for the 18 plus or not? That would be one question.
Yes. You can't go down the two different paths. You're gonna spend a lot of money going down that road, two different paths. We need to make a determination, this board needs to make that determination, what we feel is best based on that report, the direction that we want to go in, so that Tecton can sit there with council input now and refine that plan. Oh, we don't need this, we can do this, can we do this, can we, either to, anything that we take out of what they've designed, you get rid of something that they believe is necessary to bring that police station up to the current standards. But we can go through that process and refine everything down, almost like design development drawings. Put them back out to find out what the estimated cost would be. Then we have a more solid number. Right now, it's a guesstimate, really, what they've come up with. That's gonna take 2 or 3 months for them to go through that process to get to that point. Then once you know that number, we can't just go and say, we can't just ask the people based on what they've given us for numbers in here. Those numbers aren't good. I'll be honest with you. They're not the right numbers. You may be able to do it. It may be less than that. But you're not gonna, it's not just a matter of this number or that number. You've got to know what plan you want to go forward with. Then you've got to submit that language to the General Assembly to get enabling legislation so we can put a question on the ballot. The General Assembly is done in June. So you've got to get it to them mid-April with the proper language. Bond council's got to weigh in to get the right language so the wording is proper. Then you've got to take that question, send it to the Secretary of State. That's the other date that Paul was talking about, in August. They've got to certify the question on the ballot, to be on the ballot, 90 days before the election. So you got to take that November date, which is 13 months away. It's only, it's not that far out. And you got to back your way backwards to find out dates where you got to hit certain milestones. So really, if you want to have a knowledgeable, factual question to put to the people, you've got like 5 or 6 months to get it done from today. And so, like Mr. Norsom said, there's a number of us that went through this on the middle school. It's a process that you have to keep moving. And yep, it looks like, oh yeah, it's out here. You need to condense it, because after you get all those approvals, then you've got to put the facts out to the town so they can make an informed decision. But you need to get the facts, all your facts right before that. It's not a matter of, do you want to renovate or do you want to build a new building? This board needs to make that decision. The 5 people need to make that decision.
But I think though that it should be an if/or, because if it votes no, if they vote no, then where are we? We're right where we are right now with no plan.
Well, you do have a plan.
I mean, correct.
But we need to determine which one of those plans you want to go down that road.
I mean, the plan is, to do nothing obviously is not an option. We all agree with that. But if they vote no, that's exactly what will happen. We'll be in a situation where we're not doing anything.
They could vote no on both of them, and you're still in. You need to have a plan going forward. You need to know which one that is. It can't be this or that. It needs to be one question. One question, this is it. This is the bond question, X number of dollars to build a new police station, or X number of dollars to renovate the existing Bushy School with this configuration. It's got to be that. It's not a choice. It's not a choice. We need to determine which part of that plan that we want to do to go forward. We need to know that in order to get the factual information to put the question out there.
Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so, you know, to John's point, so if, regardless of whichever option we decide or put on the ballot, for them to vote on, if it comes back where, it's voted down, then, you know, as John said, I mean, the only other option at that point would be to either A, do nothing, or like you said, spend $1 million and do whatever minor revisions we can do.
Right.
Would we need approval from residents again as far as putting it on the ballot?
No, because at that point, we have the $1 million that has already been approved to do
Okay.
just that.
Okay,
That money is sitting there. The $1 million, the 1.2 is sitting there. It's in the bank, we own it. We're paying debt on it, we own it.
But the only point I was trying to make is, if ultimately that is the way we go, then we're pretty much locked in at some point rehabbing that building. And it's not
so
the best.
So I think maybe the bigger underlying question is, you know, how many of the residents within North Smithfield actually know what the two options are? I mean, this is great, but what type of communication are we having to kind of lead up to that ballot question?
Right. And
So
that
if we
was-
do decide to do one thing, you know, they, just so they don't look at it going into the booth on election day and saying 17 million and they can't get that out of their head, or whatever amount, you know, we put on
Correct.
that question, where it's either an up or down, where had there been enough communication where they could say, all right, well, these were the two options and this is the option that the town council decided to go in.
I agree with you, but I think it starts with acceptance of the report. Once the town council accepts the report, as that's what the scope of work was, they've met their contractual obligation, then we can start the process. We can post the report on the town website. Facts, you know, frequently asked questions, or fact sheets can be developed while the architect is refining the numbers. There's an awful lot of information in the report. But that's how it gets sold, by the information being there.
Your recommendation has been that we need a new police department, the station
Building,
itself.
correct.
We've needed for a long time. I think we should sell that. We have, like yourself and your other members, very competent people that work very hard, going over every aspect of the building, what is needed, etc. And very impressed by the report. Yes, on that 18 million, maybe some things could be cut. Maybe not a lot, because as I see a lot of it, we want this to last and to be able to provide what the officers need. And this building that we have now, it's doing anything to that because of the structure, because it wasn't designed for the electrical needs that they need today. Would be throwing money away. It wouldn't last. So I personally am going to go with your recommendation, because you said on that board you did due diligence. You have intelligent men and women, and your recommendation, and you looked at both, was we really need a new station. And I hope with articles, having meetings open to the public, that they'll realize that. And well, the one person here, if this was a subject at one time, this room would have been filled. You would be on stage, people would be on here, on the staircase. but somehow it's not happening. And I think Zoom is wonderful, but it's not being here. You don't have the interaction. And I don't know if we'll ever see that again with the virus and everything else, but I appreciate what they put forth. And as much as I love Bushy, my father was in the first graduation class. My grandson left that to go to another school that is no longer around. Could it be this one? And we need this. Otherwise, we're going to be back there sooner than we realize. You know, the structure is not healthy.
And I think the experience with the town, when they put the money into a building and build it correctly, like the high school, I mean, that's 50 years old?
53 years old.
53 years old? That's a solid building. This building was a solid building.
Middle school.
The middle school, same thing. We took the effort to make sure that that was going to be a long-standing building. That's what is proposed in the report. Something that's going to last and meet the needs, so it doesn't have to be revisited in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or...
I agree. I mean, I agree, with Claire, and nobody knows better than me that that building is not a police, it's not, served for a good police station. But there's a political reality to this too, that it's a lot of money that I don't know. I'm concerned that the voters would not go for it, and if they don't go for it, then what? We're just fixing a facade and doing some asbestos abatement and calling it a day?
No, then you would still have to face the reality that you'd have to rehab the building to meet the needs. And it's not going to be the same type of structures if you built a new one and tore that down.
Right.
So again, it's, kind of, I've been in an organization that was very political. I understand these decisions are really hard. And the only saving grace is you're doing something so the future town councils don't have to deal with it. It's not kicking the can down the road, like happens so many years with Hallowell and some of the other buildings in town.
Anybody else? Now, don't think by my comments that I don't support the police
No,
station.
I don't.
I'm just looking at the whole picture.
We're just looking for some direction so we can figure out,
Right,
help you all.
To be quite candid,
yeah.
from the political side of things, this board needs to be unified in what decision we make. We need to make a decision to put out to the electorate, and then we need to be supportive of it. We can't take the position, I'll be really frank, can't take the position of, well, here's the question, we'll let you guys decide. No, this board needs to be unified, as well as the administrator, and I don't want to put it all on him, but the elected officials in the town, if they get behind something and say, this is what we believe is the best for the town, it is the best thing that we can do, it's something that we need to do and we should do, and we're unified in that, it will happen. When it's not, it won't happen. You will face that reality if they will vote it down. Whether it's rehab or building new, the cost isn't that much different.
I know that.
The dollar difference isn't gonna make the difference of people saying, oh yeah, we can save $500
I agree.
$500,000 by fixing the old building up, and it's still an old building. That's not what's gonna determine it. What's gonna determine it is if we're unified in the front of this thing and we put the facts out there and answer the questions that people have, like we did the other night, where questions came up and we had answers for them. I've been through this more than once, unfortunately. It works. It works, and you can be afraid, and people will vote it down, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you need to take a position. You need to stand up and take a stand. I'm not afraid to do it. I've been saying it for over a year now. You need a new police station.
There's
It's
no
time.
question.
It's time. And we need to make that investment. And we've showed where we can show the people how the impact, the tax impact isn't gonna be as great as people will think it will be. By retiring the debt and whatnot, we can put all of those facts out there. But we need to make a decision on which plan you want to go with. Do you want to renovate or do you want a new station? so that we can get all of those facts in line to move them forward, to even get to a question. You can't put a question out there that's double-sided. They're competing against each other. You need to pick one plan and go forward with that plan.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm new to this, but is it possible to put together, like, and I agree, having a unified front on whatever decision the council decides, whatever direction, but, you know, I think one of the biggest things is we can have open forums all we want and request the public to come in to ask questions about whatever decision we decide, but we know sometimes we don't exactly get the numbers that we truly want. Is it possible to have just, you know, local newspaper articles, obviously hitting the email news blast within the town, just something really that we are putting out on behalf of, you know, maybe a Q&A that we're putting out to the public, so it's not always newspapers like the Valley Breeze or NRI News or Woonsocket Call, where they're being kind of reactive to what we're doing. And so now it's almost like we're on the defense rather than on the offense. I mean, is that something that typically towns will do?
Yeah, that's what they did with the middle school.
Okay.
That's what they did with the middle school.
So I mean, I think if we do that, regardless of the decision, we have to justify it. And maybe we can have the newspaper quote each one of us a certain aspect of the project and why we think it's a good move, whichever option we decide.
And I also think that in Tecton, I mean, this isn't the first project they've done. They have experience helping towns with bond referendums. They'll tell you they haven't always been successful, but inevitably what happens is they're still hired to go back and refine the plan if the vote gets sent. But I think that they would be an asset to help the town council answer some of the questions and develop frequently asked questions, but we'd have to define that scope of work before we would amend the contract and bring it to you all.
The administrator's been in this seat before, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, if you have answers to people's questions, almost like a bulletproof type of a defense, it works.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you know, the voters put their trust in us, put the trust in council, put the trust in the administrator. I can tell you, this will be doomed if there's any slight perception of apathy. And I think pretty much it's thematic here that the council members will be in unison in their decision. I'll tell you right now, I'm for a new police station right from the get-go. I thought it several times. I've seen it when I was the town planner there. 20 years ago, there were mold problems. So I think if the council, if we listen to Mr. Nordstrom, if he passes the product to me, if you accept it, passes the product to me, that's the first step. And it start to, informational sessions are given to the public. You you really should consider some public hearings on this, in-person public hearings. Listen to what the voters have to say, the people are gonna pay for the bond. And I think that if there's a passion here for it, and everybody is passionate about this, it will happen, like the middle school happened. But we had some setbacks before the middle school. I don't think the information was put out there right at the beginning. It was corrected. We got a really nice middle school now. But honestly, unified, as some of you have said, and let's be passionate about it. Let's, the people that elected us, let them know how you feel. I mean, that's really important.
And I would also be remiss if I didn't, I think the police chief would be a huge asset.
Absolutely.
Especially, I mean, he has statistics off the top of his head comparing North Smithfield arrests to towns 2 or 3 times the size, showing North Smithfield has more arrests than some of those other towns.
Yes.
He has the national standards, the accreditation. Not,
and we can always
I'm
try
not
again.
pushing him, but I'm just saying he would be an asset.
And we can still keep trying. You gotta get people to go and see that building. If people see it, they will change their mind awfully quick. They need to see it. and I don't know how to do it. We've tried 3 times.
Well, the other thing we could think about doing too is try to do some type of video and get it along the website with the report, because if they can't physically get there.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah, super idea.
But the chief, like Paul said, the chief was really good to work with, and he continued to be good to work with. And setting up a video, it's gonna have to be done through him, because there are things that there are some things that you can't see in that police station.
Oh,
For
yeah.
obvious reasons, for security reasons and whatnot, but
Right, and the other advantage, he has a construction background also, so, in his early days. So,
You mentioned something about, you wanted us to approve a final, there's nothing in,
Except
the
this
report,
report.
no.
oh, except for the
we should
report.
have done it last week.
Oh, we didn't do
We
that?
should have
Okay,
done it last week.
So
okay.
That would be
Okay.
next
I
council.
misunderstood.
All right, well,
And-
thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Nordstrom, we have it digitally, we'll see if we can put it right up onto the town's website, once council accepts it. I get it digitally. I don't know if it's all gonna fit, we may have to put it up in sections.
Yeah, it's a big
File.
file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be emailed, but you can download it.
I have to see what the capacity is on, to put it up. I'm not an IT person, but we'll be,
So you can put up either the PowerPoint or that, either one. We have them both.
okay.
A question for the solicitor, David. Could we accept that report tonight under this heading? As an update from the Municipal Building Task Force review?
I would think, you're just gonna accept it for purposes of what, posting it? Is that the idea, post it on the website?
Accept and place on file, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I mean, you're not
Even though I don't want to put it on file, I want
to accept it, I guess. Accept it, and then you're gonna deliver the thumb drive. I'm fine with that, because it's not a legal action.
That's the easy part.
Administrative.
Discussion by council, vote or other action.
Yeah.
This is the other
to.
action.
The update, and that's why I asked.
Come on, attorney, try to sit in this one.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Nordstrom?
Accept it and post
Yeah, Ms. Vanny's about to make that motion right now.
And if I may, take another vote to, so that the town administrator can attempt to post this for public consumption.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we accept the police department renovation or replacement analysis done by Tech and Architects dated September 2021. We accept it, place on file, and allow the administration to put it up on the town's website.
It's a motion for a second.
Second.
And a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Was there another motion you wanted us to make?
Can we also keep this on the, this report, actually?
Okay,
I want to actually keep this report as an agenda item, because this board does need to take some action, so if we want to keep it moving forward, we need to make a decision.
okay.
That way we can re-engage Tecton to keep moving forward and get to that point, hit the milestones with the General Assembly and all those other issues,
Okay.
whatever we decide.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Well, so now if I lose it, it's mine. We only have one?
If you lose it, I have a copy of it.
I'm not gonna lose it.
I have copies of every piece of paper
I'm
we
gonna give
generated.
it to my wife to hold. We won't lose it.
All right, moving on. Discussion by council, vote or other action on update of Hallowell Review Committee. Mr. Corvo, do you have anything for us tonight?
Well, we did not meet between our last town council meeting and this one, so no new action items to report. However, I will say that the public hearing that was scheduled for this evening will be rescheduled at a further date. And the reason for that is we were anticipating getting the final report from Weston and Sampson in time for the Hallowell committee to review. Unfortunately, we did not get that, so that's what caused this evening's attendance by them to get rescheduled. I believe we are going to be discussing it on Thursday, so once we've had time to do that, it will most likely be on either the following agenda or the one after that, for them to come in.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Corvo, regarding the Halloween Review Committee? Okay, let's move on then. New business, discussion by council vote or other action on zoning ordinance review, all off-road motorized vehicles. Mr. Zelinski?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's one of these issues that surfaces periodically from off-road vehicles cutting off cars on town roads, blatant disrespect for rules of traffic. But it's starting to get more prevalent now about noise ordinances and these vehicles operating in yards and in residences and on Sundays, which our zoning ordinance prohibits. It is enforceable by the North Smithfield Police Department and/or the Director of Public Safety. The ordinance itself is Article 7. There's a lot that I could speak to about it, but I'd like to defer to Mr. Soares, who, as some of you may recall, has served on, with me, at least 2 zoning review committees for roughly 5 years total on those review committees. So if you want someone to understand zoning ordinances in town, you speak to Mr. Soares. And if I may,
Please.
let Mr. Soares address.
Paul Soares, Sales Hill Road. As Mr. Zwolenski said, I served on the ordinance committee that wrote the noise ordinance, and there's been a development in my neighborhood that caused me to ask to put it on the agenda so I could explain the problem and tell you why I want to make a proposal for a slight addition so that it can be better enforced. A little background. My wife Sandy and I have lived in our home for 35 years. Sales Hill Road, nice quiet residential area, obviously a little rural. We have about 1.5 acres. All the lot sizes are about that size on the street. And about 3 months ago exactly, we got a new neighbor next door. And with that new neighbor came 2 boys and 2 ATVs. And ever since he moved in, it's been a ATV rodeo there every weekend. They ride around in circles, around the house, around the detached garage, revving the engines, running along the property line, which is about 400 and some feet, at full speed, making lots of noise, about 30 feet from my windows. It's very unpleasant. Naturally, I tried to have a conversation with this man, but he got very angry and said some choice words to me that I won't repeat here. So I was left with no option but to call the police. The police showed up, and I don't fault them for not knowing all the details of the noise ordinance the first time they came. And by the way, when they showed up at my house with my complaint, they told me they had already been to that house twice already. So it's an ongoing problem. It's not just me. It's other neighbors, too, that are having a problem. And just to give you an idea, the noise ordinance has charts for decibels, dBA, and what's legal and what isn't. And in the motorized vehicles section, it tells you that a lawnmower has a dBA of 90. And a normal ambient noise level in a residential zone during the daylight hours is 53. Also in the noise ordinance, it says that a decibel reading of anything more than 5 dBA over the ambient noise level, so that would be 58, is illegal. It's a noise disturbance, quote unquote, a noise disturbance. So if a power lawnmower is 90 and 58 is breaking the law. Anybody here that's familiar with an ATV knows that it's a lot louder than a power lawnmower. So this is what we're facing on a regular basis.
What section?
Please,
What section of the ordinance?
would you like a copy of the
Oh, I can just look at it right here. It doesn't come in the
section 8-122?
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but, thank you.
But I don't think that's where you'll find the DBAs that I just quoted.
No,
But
if I
they're
may
in,
interject- If I may interject, that's right up front, Article 7, noise, under 8, it starts under 8-110, Mr. Vadney. And you'll see real-life examples of approximate decibels.
yes, it starts at 8-110, but I think the motorized section is 122. So anyway, the police came, and I read to them, again, as I say, you can't expect every police officer to know every single rule and regulation, but I'm quite familiar with it, and I had a copy at home because I kept all my records going back to 2008. It says, "No person shall operate a recreational vehicle or permit the operation of one or more recreational vehicles individually or in a group or in an organized racing event on public or private property in such a manner as to create a noise disturbance across a real boundary." Now, I consider that to be a noise disturbance, especially if it's 90 decibels or more. As I explained, a lawnmower is 90, you know an ATV is more. But the police said that that was subjective. A noise disturbance to me might not be a noise disturbance to someone else. Well, perhaps the solicitor could weigh in on what a noise disturbance is. Okay, so then you go to the other section of the noise ordinance that says if you get a decibel reading of 5 dBA more than the normal ambient level, which I told you is 53, so that'd be 58, that's a violation. So that requires them to get a reading with a decibel meter. And the problem with that is when you call the police, and you know, this has happened several times with me and another neighbor, these kids that are riding around in these ATVs making all that racket see the police car coming, and they immediately go park them in the garage, and then the policeman can't get a decibel reading because it's got to be done at the property line. So this has happened several times, so it's a cat and mouse game. How do you win? At one, a sergeant who came to my house one time said that it's a difficult situation, obviously. You understand what I'm saying about you got to catch them in the act, and they're going to see you coming. You're never going to catch them. So the sergeant said to me, perhaps you could put some other wording into the ordinance to make it easier for us to enforce. So I thought, that's a great idea. So I went online, and I found an ordinance in Methuen, Massachusetts, that addresses this issue. And I would like to propose, and I'm sure, you know, we're not going to act on this evening, but, you know, whatever the process is that the administrator and the solicitor can tell us, I would like to, I've copied the exact wording from Methuen, Mass, and their ordinance has been in effect for quite a few years. They started debating it back in '07 or '08, and I think it was probably passed by 11 or 12. And they started out trying to, with prohibition of operation of off-road recreational vehicles within 500 feet of an abutting residence. And there are exceptions. And I have extra copies if you want.
I would love to see one.
Yeah, this is what I propose to add to our ordinance through whatever the process might be, and however long it might take. Naturally, sooner is better than later, because we live with this every day. Believe it or not, the kid was out in the rain this afternoon running around in his ATV. Okay,
Excuse me,
so I'm proposing 300 feet, not 500 feet.
Mr. Soers, do you have a copy for the solicitor?
I'm sorry, yes, of course.
So I know you're talking about. Thank you.
I'm gonna make you walk back.
I'm good.
So my proposal is make it illegal. Let me get glasses on, I can read better. My proposal is this should be added to Section 8-122 motorized vehicles, which currently ends in the letter F, E rather, I'm sorry, ends in E, A, B, C, D, E. So I'm proposing F, no person shall operate an off-road recreational vehicle within 300 feet of any abutting residential dwelling. Then there are exceptions, and these exceptions are taken, well, the first three of them are taken right from Methuen. And again, it's been in effect for years, so I assume it passes muster. The prohibitions defined above shall not be construed or enforced so as to prohibit the use of said vehicles for the following purposes. 1, for use on the property of a commercial, farming, and/or agricultural operation. Number 2, the operation of said vehicle for the purpose of loading and offloading the same from the location where it is regularly stored onto a trailer, vehicle, or other legal means of transport to and from said location, which obviously means you can own the ATV, you can keep it in your garage, you can load it onto your pickup truck or your trailer and go someplace and play with it and bring it back. And number 3, the operation of said vehicles by law enforcement and emergency medical personnel. Now, I added number 4. This is not in the Methuen, because I'm sure that some people will say, well, I use my ATV for gardening or for carrying wood or hauling debris or plowing snow. And those are all legitimate uses for an ATV. And I wouldn't try to deny anybody that. So I added an exception, the operation of said vehicles in the performance of general yard work. I think that covers it. If you want to get explicit and say this, that, and the other, but I think general yard work covers it. So I'm proposing that this be added to our noise ordinance, and I would hope that people would support this. I'm sure that my neighborhood's not the only neighborhood that's having difficulty with dirt bikes and ATVs. There's got to be other places in town. And I think, as our noise ordinance says, findings, statement of policy. The town council finds and declares that excessive noise is a serious hazard to the public health, safety, and welfare, and the quality of life. Each person has a right to an environment reasonably free from noise which jeopardizes health or welfare or unnecessarily degrades the quality of life. Well, I can tell you, my quality of life the last 3 months has been in the crapper.
You know
And
what,
again,
Paul? I'm
probably not the only one.
You know what? When I hear your story, it really upsets me. This should be called the idiot ordinance, because you have to be an idiot to allow your children to drive around and disturb their neighbors right up to, you know what I'm saying, to do something like this. And it's a shame that we have to actually have ordinances for what should be common sense. All right? It should just be common sense. You just don't let your kids do that.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a shame that we have to actually create an ordinance for something like this, when really it should just be the police show up, hey, don't be doing that anymore, and it should be over. Well, never mind that. It should have been over when you talked to the father.
Actually, it wasn't even a conversation. He just came right at me calling me filthy names.
Well, I'll support this, and we'll get this going as soon as we can. Yeah.
I think it's long overdue. Because some kids are going down the main side streets on these vehicles that I've seen as I've, hauled my grandkids here and there. And with oncoming cars and everything, in the gullies, and, we have crown roads, et cetera, it's dangerous.
We had this at my house, all right? But fortunately, the family of the parents of the children, when I spoke to them, I said, 10 miles an hour, go by 10 miles an hour. Once you get into the woods, do what you got to do, but do not fly by my house. And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
Never had another problem.
And another thing is, there's power lines right behind our houses, mine and his. And there's a lot of ATV trails out there. Now, it's not my property, it's not his property, but people are out there on ATVs all the time. So all he's got to do is cut a little path through the brush and go out there and play, instead of running around the house and along my property line. And at this point, he's being vindictive. The police have spoken with him every time they've come to the house, and it's at least 6 times. And they've come back and talked to me, and they're just not getting any satisfaction.
We can get this going.
Yeah, but Mr. President, if I may, Mr. Soares has shared videos with me of this. I'm not quite sure how they would keep his composure, multiple videos. And in case anybody's worrying about a minor being filmed, well, they hide behind these, well, at least they're smart enough to wear helmets and face masks. And that also gives them anonymity to do other things that maybe they think they're road warriors from the movie, but there's blatant disrespect from many of these people. And but there are many law-abiding ATV people, but it's the type of thing that's affecting a neighborhood when they're buzzing around in their yard. I can tell you that I think this surfaced about 6 years ago with people cutting, and we cannot advocate that they use utility lines because we don't own those properties. But when they're on those utility lines, nobody really sees them or hears them. But I can remember my wife coming down Hampton Road, and she saw one kid shoot across. She stopped so 3 others could drive by across the road. And what did she get for it? That one-fingered salute.
The royal salute.
The royal salute. So now, not all ATV riders
I
are
like that.
disrespectful. Some of them are really respectful. But this is a case, I've seen multiple videos of it, of what's going on in this neighborhood. And as Mr. Soares said, he wasn't the first one to call. They had a couple calls before that. So what I would suggest is that we take a look at this and refer it to the zoning board to take a look at it and planning so that they can, now they're very, very busy, but I'll check into the process of how we should do this. Because when we served on the zoning committee, we pretty much drafted all those zoning rules up and gave it to zoning and planning, and they go, this looks great, thank you. And then it came before council for approval. So we could follow that process. It may be a lengthy process, but you know, winter's coming, it might slow down in the winter. But I don't know how the residents go through this in the fall or the spring, because it is intrusive.
We shouldn't have to legislate common sense and decency.
Oh, you do, unfortunately. The administrator's right, though. If we want to change the ordinance, we put it on our docket, and then we remand it to the planning board for their review before we act on it and have a public hearing. There's a process you gotta follow. So once we put on our docket, we can remand it back to the planning board, so planning board can approve it.
All right, Joey, put
Or
this
make
on for the
recommenda-
next
Or make
agenda.
recommendations to it.
Put this on the agenda for the next meeting. We'll get it going, Paul. All right?
Thank you. I also have extra copies of the noise ordinance, if anybody would like one.
Maybe
I couldn't
someone
find it. I was looking
send
and I'm
this
like,
to your
maybe
neighbor.
I'm just not, I need your glasses or something.
Highlighted some of the,
Ms. Iglios is going to add to this conversation.
Thank you.
Mr. President, just to follow up on the council's desire, if the council wants, I can draft the first reading, it will be on your docket, and then you do the first reading, then you refer it to the planning board. You have to have a public hearing, if it's zoning matter, and then the planning board will weigh in, and then after that, assuming there's no changes or modifications, but you can do that at the public hearing, obviously, then you have your second reading, it'll become law.
Okay.
But that'll take, take probably a month. First reading, then you gotta schedule a public hearing.
All
But
right.
I can have it for your next docket. I'll just, especially since this is an existing ordinance from another town, take a look at it, but it sounds to me, it's pretty straightforward. I don't see anything that causes any legal concern at this point. But I'll draft it, get it on the docket.
Can we add penalties that the ATVs will be seized like they are in Providence? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
The zoning noise ordinance does have
Penalties.
There are penalties in there. I think it's $100 the first time, 500 every
Yeah.
following fine.
Yeah,
There you go.
the jurisdiction is the municipal court,
Okay.
so that's the
So I
enforcement.
can stay right here up at Scottus Hall.
Okay.
one question before I.
Yep.
You said you're going to be on the next council agenda?
Yep.
If that's the week of the 17th, I won't be around.
You don't have to be here.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll take
I
it.
don't have to repeat all this?
No.
Okay, good.
All right. Thanks.
There's no public hearing on that date, Mr. President.
No, absolutely. I know.
It's getting referred.
First reading, so we can kick it off to the planning board.
Correct. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. President, can I just wanted to bring to the council's attention that this is actually a code of ordinances. It's not a zoning ordinance, so it does not have to be referred to the zoning board or the planning board. So it's something that the council could Yeah. So it could be done a little quicker, if you'd like.
All right, I apprappreciate that, thank you.
Still takes 2 readings.
You never know all
All right,
the
so now we can move it along a little.
I thought he was just a tech guy.
Yeah, no,
Thanks
he's
for-
everything, he's everything.
coming
Hmm?
forward.
He's a zoning guy.
Just a tech guy.
Oh, he's the zoning official.
Yeah, I know. Came out of nowhere.
So then the process would be next week, we'll do a,
You're still gonna have to do a public hearing
correct,
and a
yeah,
second reading,
okay, all right,
but you won't have to, the planning board doesn't weigh
Where's your
in.
son go?
all right.
I'm looking.
Yeah, we came out of executive session. He was already in his jammies.
Oh, that took a little
Oh, I
longer than I
agree.
expected.
Hmm.
All right, discussion by council, vote or other action on waiving of town fees for food trucks regarding annual Spooky Spirits on October 23rd, organized by the North Smithfield Heritage Association. Mr. Keene is not here, but,
Mr. President,
yes,
if I may. At the last meeting when we were discussing this and we weren't sure where we were going with this, and so we asked the solicitor to review the ordinance, and so we would be clear on it. We didn't get it in our packet, but I did look it up. And any of these food trucks need to get a license one time for the whole year. They just need to purchase that one license. I don't think as a council, we should waive that granting of that permit. They should get that permit. It goes hand in hand with their state permit. What we can waive, though, is when they have like the concerts on the common, or when they wanna have like this with having multiple trucks. If you read further into the ordinance, temporary mass gathering permit, that's a permit that we can waive. Because if we didn't, the Heritage Association would have to take out a permit for $300 to have those 2 food trucks there. So rather than waiving the permit fee for each individual truck, we need, by reading the ordinance, we need to go back and waive the fee for getting the permit for the mass gathering permit, whether it's on private property or public property. It's the same for either one of them, you just have to apply for it. And I think that's the fee that we waive, not necessarily the truck's fee. They pay the $75, they can be in town 365 days a year. They don't, it's not like a peddler's license, it's completely different from that. A peddler's license, yeah, they had to, every time they wanted to be here, they had to get a permit, state the date where they were supposed to be. When we redid this ordinance, a year and a half ago, maybe? Or maybe a year ago, a little more than a year ago. It states that they have to have a permit from the state to operate. We can't waive that, they have to have that. And then they can get a permit to operate in our town, $75, it's good for the whole year. It actually mirrors the time frame of their state permit when they apply for it. But then if you want to have a mass gathering, which is concerts on the common, this would be considered that. More than 2 trucks, 500 people, you need to get a permit for that. I would suggest when it's a function of the town or something to benefit the town, in which both of the things, the concerts on the common, this are, we waive that fee of getting the so the Heritage Association doesn't have to put $300 up to get the permit to have an event with food trucks at it. I think that's how we handle it going forward. And it's a case by case, because it could be an outside group that wants to do something at Rent Pacheco Park and have an event and have food trucks there, and we don't waive that fee. But when it's more or less in-house, I say we can waive that fee for the permit, the $300 fee. But I think that all of our trucks should have that permit, so they can operate for the full year at any event they want to go to. They don't have to tell us where they're going to be, when they're going to be, by ordinance. They just need to have a permit. And I think we should have them all get a permit, just so that they're in compliance.
I agree that they should get a permit. But there's something, in my opinion, as a business person, there's something wrong about asking them to have to pay $75, because we have contractors and business people come in from out of town all the time. Pavers, seal coaters, construction guys, I mean, you name it, house builders. They come in, we don't ask them to pay $75, so why are we whacking these food trucks $75 to do business in town? Yes, come in, get the permit, but why should it have to cost $75?
That's the way, we mirrored someone else's ordinance when we did this.
One of the things,
State
if
law
I,
provided for.
yeah.
What's that?
Do you hear what?
State law, that was under the state law.
Right, they might allow us to charge by a any other business can come into town without having to pay to do it.
Mr. President, just so, there's actually three iterations of what's going on. So, in one more category. The permit for the year allows them to go on the town streets. That's what the permit's for. The gathering is either on private property or public property. If you're running an event, that's another permit. What I think is happening here, the clerk indicated to me, is the town is running this event and invited these two trucks to come. So these two trucks, if this is the only time they're gonna be there, why should they pay $75 when they have no intention of being up and down the town's road for the year? So the town may wanna consider waiving the fees for these two trucks on this one
Well, that's
event
my
that's
point.
being run by the town.
That's my point. We waived it, well, we waived it for fireworks, we waived it for, every time there's an event, we're waiving these fees anyway, so why not just get rid of them?
You're waiving them for town activities.
Correct.
As opposed to somebody who's running a private party and renting out a park and bringing in 30 food trucks.
How often is that?
I'm just, that's the thing, like, in Newport, they have the food truck convention, all these, it's not unusual, you have some space around here.
Crown Plaza has one, they have one at Holy Trinity all the time.
I'm not saying the council doesn't come up, but I just want you to understand there's a difference between a town-run event, somebody who's selling food on town roads, and someone who's running a party in town. Those are the three different things that are going on, and they seem to be getting conflated here. If somebody is just operating a food truck in town, they're not doing it because of you, they're doing it because they're chasing people around.
That's their business, that's their business.
So we want, that's different.
And they should have to get a permit, I'm just saying they shouldn't get whacked $75.
That's
And I was talking to, our local food truck entrepreneur, Mr. Soley, and, I was discussing this with him, and I said how I thought it was a little unfair for the food trucks to get whacked $75. And he said, what some towns do, what a lot of cities and towns do, we don't charge them $75. What they do is they charge them 10% of their sales. So that could end up being a lot more than $75, or it could end up being a lot less than $75. But then that money can be earmarked, instead of going into the general fund, towards the food pantry, or it could go towards Parks and Rec, or, you charge them a percentage of their sales, and that way there, if they don't make any money, they're not getting whacked $75.
Again, Mr. President, I don't want to weigh into this issue now, but when we drafted this ordinance, the ordinance was done by enabling legislation, and I don't recall, but I will review and advise, I don't recall any state legislation that allows you to take a percentage of their sales. So I don't know how the towns are doing that.
But they could donate, if they donate, not take, they donate a percentage of their sales.
That's different.
See, I look at it from a different point of view. This is a business. Forget who we know, because most of these guys are not from town.
Right.
And that's the reality of it. Any of our businesses, restaurants, Lindy's, Lucky Dog, Hercules, whatever, they all pay a victualling license in order to sell stuff. They pay a license to provide something, to earn a living, to make money. These guys are no different. And so, that's why I say, a town event, we waive that permit fee for a mass gathering. It's waived. You don't have to pay the $300 to have the food trucks come. But every food truck should have its own permit to operate in our town. It's good for a year for $75. They can be here 365 days a year with that $75 permit.
But Councilman, I just want to point out that if somebody runs an event with a mass gathering, that person does not need to get a $75 permit.
No, I understand that. They need to get a $300 permit.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. We can waive that. If it's a town function, we waive that permit fee. But every individual truck should be getting their license. They should be getting their $75
If they're operating on the roads, not if they're also going to that event, because I'm trying to say that if they go into that event, they don't have to pay the 75. The person that's running the event pays the 300. But the people that come to the event for that event, they don't have to pay the $75. I just want to make sure and say they don't.
Well, you're
have to-
assuming that that's the only event that they're ever gonna come to
Right.
in town, but that's not the case in our case. That's not the only event that they come
I
to.
just wanted to make sure you understood that other iteration.
So around, pay $75 so we know who they are, who the owner is. We can check, do you have these certifications? Come to as many times as you want. Now, if it's a mass gathering and the council wants to relieve them of paying that $300, it'd be a council decision. But I'm a believer that they should register in North Smithfield, and because remember, we also have to protect our bricks and mortar locations. There's only so much disposable cash. So say I can come to an event here and I want to eat, I'll have a hot dog here, whereas I could have gone to one of our local restaurants instead. So where they get meal tax. The town gets meal taxes from these. So at a minimum, I would just suggest that a $75 registration, good for the whole year. And it'd be up to council to waiver those mass meeting things, whether it be a graduation, fireworks, concerts on town hall, whatever it is.
Mhm.
So we're just gonna continue to waive them, because what happens is this. So the first event of the year, just say it's the fireworks. Okay, so they haven't paid the $75 yet. So we waive the $75, so they still haven't paid it yet. So then they come up with a concept, well, they still haven't paid the $75, so now they wanna waive it again because they haven't paid it yet, so we waive it again. And we just keep kicking the can down the road, and it never gets paid.
Well, they
What the
don't come with-
what the administrator is saying, we're on the same page, Paul and I are on the same
I think we
page.
have,
Yeah.
yeah.
That we want them to pay the fee so we know who they are. When they come to these mass gatherings, that's where we waive that $300 fee. Because the person that's sponsoring the event has to pay that fee, not the trucks. The person that pays that event, for that event, has to pay that fee.
Right.
They're two separate things. I can have an event, and I have to pay $300 to have 5 trucks show up at this event. They already have their license. They already have to have their license. You know what I'm saying?
Or they may not. That's my point.
That's my point too.
My point is, somebody could come to a mass gathering event and not have to get a $75 license, because that's the only event that they're coming to. That's my only point.
Well, they already came, but they were waived at the 2 previous events that they were here.
I'm not going beyond, I'm just saying there is a possibility.
But David, what it says here is, organizer must obtain a separate event permit prior to the event. Separate permit, different from the permit to operate the truck. That's how I'm reading it. The words are right there. It's separate. They pay $75, and then if I want to have them all come to this mass gathering, I have to pay for a permit to cover what the town's expenses may be, whether it be fire, police, or whatever, because there are restrictions on all of that as well.
Just a minor point, when they show up, there are trash barrels. Somebody's gotta take those plastic barrels out, take them to DPW and dispose of the trash that's created, because there's costs associated with this. And hopefully, I'll try to explain it. What I would like to see council consider is that if a truck's going to come to North Smithfield, whether it be for any event, if they have permission for parking on somebody's, corner lot somewhere to do business, they pay $75 once. And if they come to a big event, it's gonna be up to the event organizer to pay the $300 or seek a waiver. Now, if we see a mobile food truck parked somewhere, I'll stop in and say, do you have a permit with the town of North Smithfield? If not, I'm gonna say that I would suggest you leave this place now and get a permit with the town of North Smithfield, so we know who you are. It's not that hard to enforce, and if they come to a main event, we're kinda gonna know who they are. We know who the 5 big ones are already. So whomever is running that event will check to make sure that there is a $75 one-time fee, whether it be for 1 day or 365 days in the town.
David, are you looking at the ordinance? Do you see
Yeah,
it right now?
I don't read it the way you're reading it.
Okay,
That's- I'm
well,
just-
A single municipal mobile food establishment permit shall be required to operate within the town. That's its own section, section 11-160. Shall be required to operate in the town. They need that permit. When you go further down, it's a permit for events proposed on locations on public property, and then there's one, temporary mass gatherings on private property. They both require a separate permit. That's how I'm reading it, and that's why I say that the administrator and I are on the same page in this thing. Every truck needs that permit to operate in our town. The $300 permit is if you're having a mass gathering of 500 people, not stopping in front of my house and setting up shop and selling stuff. They're two different things, and that's why I say we can waive, by the ordinance, we can waive that $300 fee.
God forbid, we have a mobile food truck come into the town, and there's an outbreak of some type of food poisoning, and they weren't registered with the town. Do you know how deep our pockets are gonna have to be for that?
Nobody's saying they shouldn't be registered, they shouldn't get a permit. I'm just saying it shouldn't cost them $75 to do it.
Just once for the year.
But if they, all right, so let's go back to fireworks, okay? Let's go back to fireworks. When we had fireworks, we had about 5 food trucks there. They all asked for a waiver of the $75 because they had never been in town before. That was the first event that they were gonna be in town for. So they waived the $75 fee. If we didn't waive the $75 fee, right, that would have come off the top. And then, so now follow me now. So now the $75 fee was waived, so they never paid it yet. They never paid the $75. So then we have them, hey, you wanna come to this other event that the town's having? Well, they still haven't paid the $75 fee, so we waive the $75 fee again. And then we come all the way to Spooky Night in October, and they still haven't paid the $75 fee. So we gotta waive the $75 fee again. Why don't we just do away with the $75 fee?
Because
Or
we
tell
can't,
them to
because we can't. Read the ordinance.
Well, we could
Read
change
the
the
ordinance.
ordinance.
The fee for a municipal mobile food established permit shall not exceed the maximum fee set by the department and established by regulation. We just picked up on state law. It's regulation. They have to have that permit.
They can get the permit, but they just have to cost them $75.
It's set by state.
No, you don't have to set it, you could make it free. The state law just says it can't
exceed the maximum fee.
$75.
But it's required. It's a requirement that they have that permit.
The permit is required, but not the fee.
These food trucks, in my opinion, the ultimate small business. One-man operations, they are a small business. Wait, $75, give them a break.
Rewrite it then.
It's just, we're always waiving it anyway. That's my point. We're always waiving the fees. Every time there's an event, waive the fee, waive
Well,
the fee.
technically, we should have not been waiving that, we should have been waiving the $300.
Correct.
I don't doubt,
Right.
Paul's right. But we've been waiving the fee because they hadn't paid it yet.
Right.
Well, we shouldn't allow
So-
them to do business if they didn't buy that $75 permit. They shouldn't have been allowed to be serving,
Well, we waived it.
oh,
We keep waiving it. We keep waiving these fees.
okay, so, it's a council, so I'm not gonna-
No, I want to hear your input. I value your input.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
So if we're making a mistake, do we continue to make a mistake? Say, hey, you know, you got off the hook for these others, good for you, but guess what, somebody read it a little closely and, look,
That's why I want,
I'm all for small business, absolutely. If anybody cares to go back into the 16 years I served on town council, it was me, the proponent, making the motion to grant licenses. Did it meet this? Did it meet this? I make the motion to grant the license. I know this, I'm being recorded. I'd just say over 90% of the times I was one to support small business. But all I'm suggesting is that for $75, they register with the state, with the town of North Smithfield. They come here as much as they want. Because there's only so much discretionary income out there to go to which restaurant. And it can be taken away from our other restaurants' business that pay meal taxes. The reason I say that, I'm not sure that food trucks pay meal taxes. I'm not sure. They don't? I don't mean to, Mr. President, I think this might be one of the few times you and I have not kind of voted on, I can't vote anymore, but we have the same thought process.
restaurants we've had, I mean, they get left all the way around. So $75, and you're saying they could go to at least 10, say 10 events. $7, I can't even get a meal from these trucks for $7.
Maybe taco.
Not this truck.
Anyway, we're not making any votes on it anyway tonight, so
Okay,
it just came up,
we'll
so we
keep
started
thinking
talking
of
about it. So let's move on.
absolutely.
No, we don't want to move on?
Sure.
Yes? Yeah, we're gonna vote on Mr. Keen's request, okay? Where are we now? So, anyway, I'll entertain a motion to waive the $75 fee for Mickey's Clam Shack and is it Alien, Alan? Alien?
Alien dogs?
Alien Dogs. For the Spooky Spirit Nights on October 23rd, 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second.
That was a tough one.
Any further discussion?
I'm not in favor of continuing this. I happen to agree with the administrator that, that's why I wanted this reviewed and looked at, because I felt we were being wrong where they were making that assumption. I gotta get a permit for every event that I do. No, they don't need a permit for every event that they do, but they need to register and have a permit to do business in the town.
Mickey,
That's a regulation by the state.
Mickey's has one.
Well, we don't know, because they've been getting
They-
their permit
we have-
waived.
we have
getting it
appli-
waived.
We have applications for both of these businesses in here right now that Joanne has provided us.
No, because they kept getting waived.
Sure we do.
That's our man.
There's an application here for Alien Dog and,
Right, because
Huh?
because they have been in town before, but they keep getting the thing waived. That was my original point.
So I think maybe we should just, going forward, look at revising or amending what the ordinance says. You know, but as of now, I mean, you know, we have
Right.
a meeting, another town council meeting in 2 weeks. We're not gonna be able to get this done to make those revisions. So
No.
let's just get it done now and then have it continue to be on the agenda going forward to revise or amend the ordinance. That's my opinion.
That's a good opinion. I agree.
I mean, it is what it is, you
well,
know.
just so you know, I'm looking at one of these. And they filed the application for a permit on July 29th of 2020. That's when they applied for a permit. Their business regulation registration expires October 13th. It's next Wednesday, before the event, so. This is why that permit to the town, so that we know that they're following with, and I'm sure that they will. I know them. I've known this individual for over 50 years. I've known him.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he does stuff for me. He does stuff for me. It's just, we have an ordinance, we need to follow it.
Oh, I'm not saying, once again, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm not saying they shouldn't have to get a permit. I'm just saying it shouldn't cost them $75.
Then we'll change the ordinance, but right now, the ordinance says it's $75.
Right, and we're waiving it. And we're waiving it.
Yeah.
So, okay, we have
Lot of time, lot
we
of
have a
time
motion
invested.
and we have a second, and do we have any further discussion?
Are we gonna waive the other fee then?
Well, we don't have to because it's a town event. Town's not gonna pay itself.
Not tonight, we're not. Let's go on.
North Smithfield Heritage Association is not a town,
They
part
say
of the
women
town.
talk, right?
They're having an event. Doesn't say if it's a town event that they don't have to pay the permit, but yeah, we don't pay
This is what
ourselves. That's when you waive the fee, when it's a town event. So you have a mass gathering permit that they don't have, that they need. That's the one that we waive.
All right, well, that's one motion, if we want to make that motion. Right now, the motion is the $75 fee for the 2 food trucks. If we want to make a motion after this, then we can do that. Okay? Anything else? This looked simple when it was on the agenda. It looked like it was going to be a quick thing.
Looks at the
It is simple.
Roll call, please.
busy.
There's only one motion on the floor, Mr. President.
There's one motion on the floor, is to waive the fees for the 2 food trucks, at the $75 fee for the 2 food trucks.
That's the motion right now.
That's
That's it.
Mr. Corvo made the motion, and Ms.
No.
O.
Mr. O'Hara made the
Oh,
motion, I
and
seconded it.
you, that's right, you begrudgingly seconded it.
I did.
Think, you're treating this
Right.
over.
Yes.
See, it's my birthday, they have to be nice.
Ms. O'Hara,
Oh, God. What?
yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No,
Now, Ms. Badney, if
Now
you'd like
you
to
say
make
no.
a motion for the $300 fee.
you're so confusing.
Number one, you've already waived the fee for one of them, so you didn't have to waive it. You waived it 5 months ago.
Correct. And I think that's the confusion here, but in order to keep the confusion consistent, we decided to waive
Well
it.
said.
Okay,
Well said.
all right? So,
North Smithfield Town Council. Consistent confusion.
yes, keep it consistent.
Mr. President, I would make a motion that we waive the mass gathering license for the North Smithfield Heritage Association on October 23rd, 2021, of $300.
Okay, that's a motion. Do we have a second on that one?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Finally, right?
Well,
All right, so you're up. Discussion by council vote or other action on amendment to Weston and Sampson contract for the Hallowell property. Mr. Porter.
oh, we should have called him earlier, Dick. Oh, God.
There we go. We really, it's not really that far. We just got tied up with a lot of stuff, but it's really not that far down.
Okay, so I think you have my letter in the packet. The Hallowell Review Committee met on, at our last meeting. We reviewed the contract. Weston and Sampson was kind of putting on the brakes for this portion of their scope of work, mainly because of our surveys that we put forth and the information that we've really started to dive into as a committee, understanding that really the town would really like to see some sort of community center in some capacity. So we felt that having Weston and Sampson further explore what viable uses may or may not be worth down there, whether they be public or private, was not really worth their time and our money. We felt that we would request from the town council to amend the contract just to strike that scope of work, and it would come at a savings of $8,550.
Excellent. Yeah.
And that'll be done, right?
And then basically their scope of work is, once we pass along the final report to you folks, that their work is completed.
And I know it was brought up last time, so we are not actually amending the contract, correct?
No, it's my understanding that we need to have town council approval to amend the contract as it stands now, to just remove that clause. Because otherwise, we still have it in the contract that they have to do the work.
And what does Weston and Sampson say about that?
Weston and Sampson is fine with it. They've actually been kicking that can down the road and have not, they have a sub-consultant that was gonna do this portion of the work, and they still have not signed a contract with said sub-consultant. So,
I would think we would need something from them saying that it's a two-way contract. We just can't amend it without, we've signed a contract saying that they wanted to do this. I think we need something from Weston and Sampson saying, we won't do this, and we won't charge. I think we need something on both sides to go forward.
Yeah,
We just can't amend it on our own and saying, hey, we're amending the contract, we're not paying you for this. We already signed a contract with them that they were gonna do that.
yeah, is it possible to get something in writing of them saying that they are not able to perform that duty of the contract?
or that they're just in agreement with removing
Yeah,
that
that's
portion of the, yeah, that's fine.
I think we just need something in writing from
Okay.
them to do it.
Sure, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Porter?
But you said that they're done once they issue the report.
Yes.
We've never even met with them.
Well, we were so.
There's a ton of meetings that are still,
Yes, we were supposed to get the report at least a week, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
That's right.
Never did. And Jeff's been really good on following up with them. And so that's what led me to believe, we'd be able to get them on the agenda to have them here tonight with the engineering team. And then Jeff and I exchanged communication later last week, and he asked me if I got it. I said, oh, I didn't get anything. And did you end up getting it from her eventually?
Yeah, we got it the following Thursday.
Okay.
We have what I'm calling the final draft report, because we haven't seen it. I want to make sure that our committee reviews it, comments on it, gets our comments back to Weston and Sampson to complete that, and then that way we're not caught off guard by some odd thing that they might present to you folks. And then that way, we have all of our.
That's what we did with that.
Exactly, exactly. Similar process to what happened. And I would even say, if you guys were open for it, I know you've had a lot of extra meetings. If you wanted to have just a special meeting for Weston and Sampson, similar to what you did with Tecton, I'm sure they would be amenable to that as well. So then that way you don't have a full agenda like tonight and people are waiting to hear that. So it's your call, though.
Jeff, so other than the 8,550, which would be this part of the contract,
Mm-hmm.
are they still owed money?
There are 2 invoices that we got late in the game, and we haven't had a chance to review them. There's I believe, a July invoice and an August invoice. We're gonna be reviewing that this Thursday. So, and we're gonna be reviewing it and then likely recommending it for payment, for your next town council meeting.
I'd like to personally hold off on, finalizing all payments until they fulfill their end of the deal with the meeting.
Sure. I mean, they've completed, as you saw with the last invoice recommendation, they did provide the breakouts of their scope of work and their tasks that they have completed. They've done something similar for the past 2 invoices. I believe they're at about 80% complete. So they haven't billed out the job 100%.
We haven't paid out the whole thing yet.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, withholding any monies for final reports, that's still an invoice to come
Okay.
for completion.
All right, so it's not one of the existing invoices, that's still up to, because the only thing that's gonna force them to come back is if there's money involved.
Oh, yeah, no, and I wouldn't recommend payment for things that have not been completed yet.
Okay, all right,
I've done that, I've done this plenty of times.
all right.
Being on the other side, getting
It's a
paid.
total contract based on them providing
Yep.
certain levels, and as they complete them, they do 100%, 80%, and they bill to that level.
Okay.
Can
And you
I
guys,
ask a
and you guys
question?
have an idea whether they're 80%
Exactly,
or
exactly.
40%, just from your experience.
Yep.
Mr. President, may I ask, did you get DM wetlands delineation yet?
Yes, we have gotten that.
Anything else? Thanks, Jeff. Sorry to keep you.
No, I'm the next item too.
Just love it, don't you?
Discussion by council vote on other action on adding Hallowell Review Committee to the town's regulations regarding live streaming procedures. Jeff?
It's pretty self-explanatory. I know we have town council, planning, and zoning. It has been very helpful for us to have our meetings broadcasted, considering that we are looking at community-based building. So we've been feeling that if the council is amenable to it, we all voted in favor of requesting that this also be streamed live via YouTube.
CJ, can I ask you a question? How difficult is this?
Tonight, not very, because everything's working good.
But this adds now to you having to participate with that?
I'm sorry.
This adds to you would have to be there at these meetings now and then,
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
okay,
If that's the council's wish.
okay.
Yeah, but aren't you working on Thursday night till 7?
I'm here anyway, so, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
We already put CJ's time into the budget for Hallowell, because at one time we were doing Zoom. So we had budgeted for him to come into the Zoom part, so it'll be the same cost. And it's already in the budget, as long as CJ agrees to it. I can't force him to do it, but if he agrees to it, then we'll invoice us for his time.
yeah, because we only have one person now that can do this, and that's the other most.
That's right, you don't want me touching that.
Well, we know that it can be done, and with a little effort, so we'll take a vote on that, and,
I just want to confirm, this is just YouTube, not Zoom, correct? Right? Just
Yeah.
YouTube?
Yeah,
It's
what,
just live streaming, it's not interactive participation. It's just-
exactly. It again was to be available for the public consumption, whether it be live or viewed afterwards, but I had gotten quite a few email requests from folks in the public asking why we weren't doing Zoom, and, you know, I pointed them to the town council's decision a couple meetings ago, and we as a committee felt that this was kind of one of those important committees to be broadcast.
I agree with that. You want to make the motion, Mr. Corval?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to, where am I? To add to the Hallowell Review Committee, allowing the town's regulations regarding live streaming procedures via YouTube, effective the next Hallowell Review meeting and going forward.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion?
The discussion. David, we changed the ordinance, now we gotta put it up for first reading at the next meeting.
I don't think we made an ordinance, I thought it was a resolution.
It was an
Right,
ordinance.
it's resolution.
No, I think it was a regulation of the
We
council.
changed the rules, our rules of order or whatever.
It was just rules.
So we have to put on the next agenda to take action on that then? Okay. I just want to make sure.
It's not a question. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thanks. Discussion by council vote, discussion by council vote of the action on abatements, supplements. Hello.
I'll do supplementals first. For motor vehicle intangible, a total of $975.70. Do you want to do them separate or all together?
No, you can do them all together for each,
For
Like the-
abatements and supplementals?
correct.
Okay. I propose abatements.
No, we're gonna address that one right now, the $975.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the supplementals of $975.70 as recommended by the tax assessor.
That's a motion. We have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, continue.
I make a motion for abatements for real estate, motor vehicle, and personal property, $57,871.64.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Oh, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, how can you not have discussion of $56,000 abatement?
57.
So I didn't know if you wanted me to explain it or ask questions first.
Yeah.
Do you want me to explain it first, or do you have questions?
Oh, please explain it.
Looks like it was overassessed.
Yes, so what happened was, it's between Dartex Coating and Custom Coating. Custom Coating bought Dartex Coating back in April of 2020. So with tangibles, we have a schedule. So we send out our annual return in late fall, and they have to return them by January 31st or by March 15th, no later than March 15th, because we have to run numbers and do budget and tax rate and everything. So Custom Coating returned, Dartex Coating returned an annual return, but it said Custom Coating on it. So me and Alan Booth, that was the interim assessor at the time, I was pricing it, and I saw a big jump from Dartex to Custom Coating, from 100,000 to 1.3 million. So I was like, it's manufacturing, why'd it jump so much? So me and Alan looked over the return, and they had it all listed out. I can show you the return if you want. I don't know if I can, because it's private, but anyway, yeah, sorry. But, so come to find out, it wasn't Custom Coating that returned that return. It was the old company, Dartex Coating. But we had no way of knowing that. So when I questioned it, Alan went out with a new return and contact info for them to contact us with a new return, giving them extra time to refile. We never heard from them. So I had to go forward with the budget. So I used that number, then they got their tax bill, and they contacted me. And that's when I found out that it wasn't Custom Coatings that returned it, it was Dartex. But I didn't know that because it said Custom Coatings on it. So me and Alan spoke about it, so me and Alan's colleague, Anthony Del Vecchio, went out on September 24th and visited the property. We wrote down everything that was in there. Everything that's used for manufacturing is tax exempt, so anything to make that product is exempt. So all the machines and everything are exempt, so we came up with $83,000 in assets.
Wow. Big tip.
Big jump.
I should have a look, I should have a look at my house.
Was the finance director of Dartex, correct?
Yes.
And then it got signed, how many months later?
We received it February 25th of 2021.
And you were looking for it back when?
That's when it was, they filed an extension, so they had until March 15th. They returned it on February 25th or 4th. And I didn't know it wasn't Dartex. I didn't know it was Custom Coating because it said Custom Coating on it. So I saw the jump, and that was another thing because Custom Coating didn't fill out a return. I told him that he didn't have a right to appeal because he never filled out a return. But I don't have a right to overassess it either. So I'm kind of stuck.
Did that first guy go on a long vacation or anything?
Huh?
Did the first gentleman that you spoke to go on a long vacation or anything?
He didn't mention anything about a vacation.
I was joking. Big difference.
That eats up the whole budget, doesn't it? That eats up the whole abatement budget. Oh, I can hear you.
You can hear me? I mean, the good part is that we do have a cushion in there for situations like this, and we have supplementals, and we also have apartments that are going to have COs issued. So we're going to have partial supplementals throughout the year, so that's going to definitely help absorb that $50,000 abatement.
David, so what happens in a case like this where they're assessed with paperwork that they submitted, and then they say, oh, no, that's not right? Well, he says, how can you appeal something where you didn't?
To appeal under state law. One is the appeal by which you're challenging the assessed value, and that is subject to those timeframes and deadlines. January 15th, March 15th, you miss them, you're out. And that's because cities and towns need to have a stable flow.
Right.
And that's jurisdictional in Superior Court. You miss the deadlines, you can't go to Superior Court. However, the state law also says that a town cannot impose any illegal tax. And if you're imposing, this isn't a tax that was, we're not arguing about the value of the item, we're arguing about the fact that the item doesn't exist. And that's not an overassessment issue that's subject to that time frame. That would be an illegal tax. If I taxed you tomorrow, if they taxed you tomorrow on a $45 million house on your property, and you missed the deadlines, you could still appeal and say, I don't have a $45 million house, it's an illegal tax, so that's the issue. There's a separate line of appeal that's not subject to a time frame if the tax is illegal. What I'm hearing here is, essentially, the tax is illegal.
Because,
It's not an
Because
overassessment.
they were
Taxing something that didn't
based
exist.
on what she said is, they set that value because the guy sent in a value, this is what we have for equipment. I know that manufacturing, if you use it manufacturing, it gets exempt from the tangible tax. That's the mistake that was made. So when they went in, they looked and they said, oh, you know, well, we use that, that's for manufacturing. It's exempt, that comes off the list, comes off the list, comes off the list. Where they originally put them on the list.
So the
It's
exemption
like
is
taxing the
illegal.
trucks, it's like taxing trucks where they're in the state, you can't tax them.
Right.
You're exempt.
So it's obviously, the state law gives them an exemption on that manufacturing equipment, that's exempt, it'd be an illegal tax. If you're telling me the money that creates the assessment was on exempt property,
well, what happened was the return was submitted from the prior owner, and they included everything with manufacturing, but they didn't put that in the breakdown in the return.
I understand, but
So-
they included exempt property on the other, that exempt property is legally exempt,
Mhm.
and they submit it as taxable, so it's illegal. I mean, that's the way around it, I mean, it's not, at the end of the day, it's the kind of thing the town should correct. A Superior Court's gonna do that. Superior Court's not gonna,
Yeah.
the timeframe thing is really about, I think my house is worth 200,000, you think it's worth 500,000, I got an appraisal, you got an appraisal, and we fight that out through the April 15th period, I'm using a house as an
Yeah.
example, but this is really tangible taxes and
equipment, yeah.
returns. But if I say the tangible property I have that's subject to tax is worth 200,000, and you say it's worth 400,000, we fight that out through the process. But I can't tax you on something that's legally exempt. In this case,
No,
that would
that-
be an illegal.
No, I
So
understand.
that's
Yeah.
my view, that this tax is ultimately, what I'm hearing, an improper tax. When I say illegal, improperly,
Taxing things that were not taxable.
right. So I think that's a valid correction, regardless of
Mr. Delbecq,
your interpretation.
And we did reach out prior to locking the roll and using that number, and I called, I didn't get a call back, and Alan went out and hand-delivered, contact info and a new return and just asked, could you please check this over and resubmit it, and we didn't
They
get
complain when they
anything.
get the bill.
To Jennifer's defense, she was not the tax assessor. She's pretty, but now, the gentleman was being a tax assessor of the state, when we hired himself, to represent her, so, I think it's like,
And I've been in businesses where I don't like to make appointments because they hide stuff. So when we went and we walked through, you could tell he just generally wanted to keep his business here, and he was shocked. But he does run a business, so I'm not sure why he didn't know he had to file. But I did give him a new one, and I said he'll get another one this November.
Most businesses know in manufacturing that their equipment, if it's used in manufacturing, is exempt. Not everybody knows that, but if you're in manufacturing, you know that.
Now I know.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think you explained that very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we already do have a motion and a second on this. Correct? Yes,
Yep.
we do.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Cynthia, you're gonna do the penalty adjustments? Okay. Oh, it's further down.
Okay, discussion by
to
Oh, did I
mine.
skip something?
Yeah, you skipped mine.
No, you're next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you like to go now? Would you
No.
like me-
I'm overtired, sorry. Sorry, Mr. President.
I can put you up top.
I was so confused. Go ahead. No, I
Okay.
don't. Go ahead, sorry.
Discussion by council, vote or other action on performance of air quality test at the police station. Ms. Alves discussed this with me today. She's not here for personal reasons, and her concern came during the last meeting that we had with the Building Review Committee, that something came up that made her want to, concerned about the air quality in the building. I know Mr. Vadney told me earlier that these tests were already done.
Well, early on in the process, when the task force began meeting, we were meeting in the municipal annex, in the police station's meeting room. We did have our asbestos consultant do air quality testing in there, because we had that concern that there was asbestos in the building and we didn't want issues that, dealing with. And they all came back clean. All the tests came back clean. The issue comes about when you start moving and disturbing things. That's when they become friable.
And that was about 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
That was about 3 years ago when we were over
Almost
it.
4 years ago.
Yeah, so I don't see the harm in doing
Yeah,
another,
no, but I just know that it came back clean.
that's good, yeah.
And the report given to, he was the captain at the time. He was the captain at the time that was dealing with us, because he was taking care of the building. And so they understood that, yep, ceiling tiles fall, if this does, what the procedure they needed to do, encapsulate it, seal it off the room, negative draft, all that. They got the drill and all that, but yeah, we had a concern, just like I'm sure Ms. Alves does, is that, okay, they're in an unhealthy building, and we got clean testing back when we
Okay.
did that, so hopefully it'll happen again.
All right. Did you want to say something, Mr. Zelinski?
I may get feedback. No, it's not, I believe it's mine. Feedback. So just for edification, as you all know from when we looked at Hallowell, that should the interlocal trust be asked to come in and do an air quality test, they will pay half of the cost, the town pays the other half. So if in the future you're looking to do an air quality test on town properties, let's make sure town Ray Gas is the contact. He'll set it up, I believe, with Mr. Fogarty at the interlocal trust, and see if they will pick up half the bill for any future testing. So if you're considering that tonight, please let me know and I'll pass it on to Mr. Pendergast. Because it was on your agenda for that, and I believe it was 4 years ago you did the test, so I think maybe you might want to discuss that, or maybe you don't. I just want to make sure that if you do want to do it, let me know right away, or please contact Councilor Alves, and because it was her agenda item.
Well, we could vote to approve a test, and then you could take it to them, and then try to find out if it's going to be paid for.
Pretty much sure it would be paid for, but that'd be a good vote, that'll give us in case we need to go forward.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on this? So I'll entertain a motion on behalf of Ms. Alves to perform an air quality test at the North Smithfield Police Station. Do we have a
Mr.
mo-
President,
Yes.
if I may,
Yeah.
on the motion, to direct me to check with Mr. Pendergast, his contact at the local trust, what the, if indeed they would honor what they did at Hallowell, 50%, and then if Council or Alves or any councilman wants to do this, put it back on the council and we'll move forward with it, but I'll do the legwork up front.
Yeah, I was going to second for discussion, only to say that I'd like to see what the air quality test you're looking for. My experience going way back, be careful what you test for, unless you have a reason to test for something. Now, this came from the EPA. The federal guys came in when we had the issues at NSCS. Federal guys came in and said, "Why'd you test for that?" And we couldn't tell him why. He said, "You never should have tested for it. You need a reason to test for something. Don't go looking for a problem." And I'm not saying that there's not a problem there. I'm just saying we were advised by the feds, don't go looking for a problem. If you have a reason, go looking. If you don't have a reason, you're opening up yourself to something that you don't want to see. In
Yeah.
that case, this was 20 years ago. They did a test, and they got a false reading on something, and people got wind of it, and it blew up into this big thing that wasn't real. It came back with a toxic black mold in NSCS, Stachybotrys, right? And it was wrong. But they ran with this thing, and the guy from the EPA said, "Why do you even test for that?" Because he says it doesn't exist in the building. So I'm just cautioning you that it's great to do testing. Sometimes the test isn't worth it, because there's nothing that warrants you testing for it. It warranted us testing for asbestos because we knew it was in the building. We wanted to make sure it wasn't friable, it wasn't in the air, and so we had it tested. That's all I'm saying.
You could continue it to.
I think we should, because then she can explain
Yeah.
exactly what she has in mind.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna continue this, thanks.
That's all.
So we removing the motion?
Yeah, did anybody make the motion?
No, yeah, you did, but
No,
nobody,
I said I would entertain a motion, nobody
Yeah.
actually made
Oh,
it, so we can just
yeah,
move
okay.
on.
just table it to the next meeting then?
Yep. You ready, Cynthia? You ready? Yeah. A discussion by council vote or other action on penalties, tax adjustments. Mr. Jesus.
We still work with collection agencies, so we still have some write-offs to propose. The first page of the packet is penalty adjustments, and I'm asking the council to approve a proposed adjustment of $1,643.17. And the second page is deceased taxpayers, and the amount for that is $3,696.04.
I'm not seeing any of those numbers here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're on the, that's the bottom line on this page.
The proposed,
Yeah, on the bottom line.
page
bottom right,
one,
Bottom right.
on where it says proposed adjustment, where it says total, right underneath the last person,
Yeah,
it's
Okay.
$1,643.17.
nope.
In the middle
Mine's-
middle column.
No, the other.
I'm sorry,
The other side, okay, yeah, right there, 1,640.
and then for
Okay,
the deceased, it's $3,696.04. And the reason why I separate those is because one's just for penalty and one is for actual tax adjustment, so it's the actual
writing off
tax.
bad debt,
Right.
so to speak.
Right, and the other one's just interest, so, and we've been really successful on collecting the people, the taxpayers that we have been working with on a sliding scale. They're, some of them are really, want to pay it, and as soon as I propose a adjustment on their penalties, they pay even quicker. So we've had really success with this.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the penalty adjustments of $1,643.17 as recommended by the finance.
We have a second? Roll call.
I'm sorry, what did you propose, how much?
$1,643.
Okay, you just did the first, okay, sorry,
Yeah.
you're gonna do them separate.
Just the
Okay.
penalty adjustments.
Okay, go ahead.
Who seconded? I couldn't.
Claire seconded.
Thank you.
No, you did, you're good.
Thank you. Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the tax adjustments of $3,696.04 as recommended by the finance director.
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Corvo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Mr. Vadnez,
Yes.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes. Discussion by council, vote or other action on adding agenda item, old business status/progress report on completion. I asked for this to be put on the agenda. The reason being is, so many times we vote on something. Maybe we all agree, we vote, we ask a department head to look into something, or like the other day, we asked, for instance, the entrance to Pacheco, you could use that as an example. Or just the other day, we talked about the St. Paul Street, and we all agree on stuff, and we all go along, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and we all vote on it, and everything's great. But we never follow through, or we should follow through. We should, okay, we voted on it, let's roll it over and ask her to, let's check its status in a month, 6 weeks, and see how we're doing on that, so we can follow up, and we're held accountable, but also the people that we ask to look into things, to follow up on things, are held accountable as well. So it just provides more accountability, I think, all around, if we just, revisit these items and see how we're doing on the agenda, and, what kind of progress has been made or not made. So it isn't something necessarily, I don't think, that we gotta vote on. If I could just ask that it be put on Joanne puts it on the agenda, but I just want, if anybody has anything to add on that, I'd like to hear it, any discussion. But it's just a way to help, to keep everybody more accountable for decisions that we make here.
But, Mr. President, I just want to add that underneath this title, as I indicated when we had this discussion, you would have to list the items, so that it's not just this.
Right, even better, so we can let somebody know, listen, this is coming up on the agenda. I have some answers for us.
The items have to be listed.
So it would be listed like you have it here, status progress report on completion, number 1, St. Paul Street Bridge, number 2, whatever, number 3, whatever.
And it might be nothing. It might be, oh, there's no anything, but at least now we'll know, okay, well, why isn't anything? What do you mean nothing? We gotta see the
Every 2 weeks, you're gonna see it, you're gonna think, okay, well, I want an update on it.
Yeah. And what we'll do is, just when we vote on something, we can say, at that time, we can say, Joanne, can you put this on the agenda in, 3 meetings from now, 4 meetings from now, whatever.
I think that's really important, Mr. President, that the council identify, it's really after you take an action. It's not when you have a discussion, you say, we vote. I don't know, I'm gonna make something, you keep on talking about the Pacheco Park entrance. I assume that was a vote that the council took somewhere, and you've been asking, why isn't it done? It'll be on there.
Correct.
Pacheco Park entrance, right? And you know on such and such a date you voted on it, now you're waiting for it to be done. I'm using that, I don't know if we're that far down the road on that. I just
No, we're not, but it's a good example. Right.
I just want the council to say, it's after you vote on something, and you direct the department head to do something, or you vote.
Well, even like the St. Paul Street Bridge, where we talked about it, we discussed it, and so the administrator is gonna follow up with the administrator in Blackstone. Next month, he gives us an update. We had the meeting, here's what we're looking to do. Because then we need to take some action eventually too. And so things like that.
Anything that, but I do think it's a progress.
Or status, where we vote on something.
So many times we vote on something, and it's just often, we voted on it, and it's just gone now.
One of the other things, what are your thoughts of maybe putting in parentheses, whatever those actions are that we discussed, put in when the original vote of action was taken in parentheses next to the line item. So, you have to do some fact-finding, some history there, but, at least it will not only keep us continuously informed, right? Because we know that we had an action or discussed those items or even voted on it on a prior date, but, quite honestly, it could be 2 months ago, 3 months ago, where now when it's on there, we might treat it more as a front line item.
Now, my question for the clerk is it difficult to, I don't know what your setup is with the agendas, if we said, can you put this on for the next meeting the first meeting in January? Like, can you just, is that easy to go forward and put that on your calendar?
I usually have the agendas prepared or started with dates on them, so I can automatically just add them on.
Right, so we would ask somebody to do something, we take a vote on it, and we say, let's give them a couple months, let's revisit this in January. All right. Everybody agree that's something that we should have on the agenda? Okay. We can add to it if anybody has any suggestions, I'm open. No? Okay. Thank you. A discussion by council vote on other action on consent to assignment of interest decommissioning agreement to TPE King Solar Holdings LLC and consent to sale assets of TPE King Solar Holdings LLC. Mr. Jesus?
Yes, this came to me from one of the holders of the TP King Solar Holdings. They want to, I guess, transfer the agreement to Nautilus owner 2021 King LLC. And the rest of the address is there. So they're asking for our signature for that. And basically, I pulled the decommissioning agreement and we already are holding their monies. So that's not going to be a problem. It's just changing the name.
So the bond remains in place.
We have 192,000
All we're doing is transferring it.
in
Yeah,
a
but-
separate bank account, earning interest,
All terms and conditions are in effect.
the same.
Okay.
And it's something that, the last time when we went through this with GDL, discussed that, it could be sold at any time, but everything moves with it.
The bond is not being released.
Right. It's
but
just being
because
it's just being transferred,
maintained and with
being transferred to
to the other name,
the guy's name.
company will change.
So Nautilus is buying TPE King's
Right.
rights to this property and assuming all responsibility and contracts and everything. It's just a matter of a new name now on it.
And any money that's going to shift between them for that bond will be between them. The bond with the town
Yep.
stays in full force. And although I originally raised that issue, they sent an email that confirmed that they understand that. So I was satisfied with that.
So I'm just asking for authorization for the town administrator to sign the agreement.
Okay. We have a motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we allow the administrator to sign a consent agreement of interest decommissioning agreement with TPE King Solar Holdings LLC to Nautilus, owner 2021 LLC.
That's a motion. Do we have a second? Discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I would like to point out that it is Miss O'Hara's birthday today.
It's her 50th anniversary of her 29th birthday.
And you look great. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.